Thank you for allowing us to present Maximize the Value of NetSuite with IBM Cast Iron Integration. My name is Arturo Keynes, Managing Partner here at Lexicon Networks, the #1 cloud integration company. Many of you may have been for your applications, while others may have already adopted a cloud strategy and are looking for a way to maximize your existing resources and investments. In both cases, our goal here is to give you an overview of how Lexicon Networks can enable and partner with you to successfully meet your integration goals. What we're going to do here is go to our next slide, and we're going to give you an overview of our agenda today. What we're going to do today is Lexicon Networks. We're going to do a Lexicon Networks introduction, a cast iron solution overview, and a cast iron demo, followed by questions and answers. If you want to ask questions during the demo, please do so at any time. You can stop us and ask questions as needed. Next slide, please. With regards to Lexicon Networks, our geography, we're headquarters here in Illinois. We have a Canadian subsidiary in Burlington, Canada, and we also have an offshore center in Pune, India. With regards to our services, we are IBM Webster reseller. We do systems integration, mobile application development, and we're a managed services provider. I'd like to briefly highlight some relevant facts about Lexicon Networks as a company. Early on, we recognized the need for speed and simplicity in deploying and integrating SaaS solutions. We have been around the SaaS integration space for about 7 years and have established our presence as a thought leader in cloud integration strategies, technologies for SaaS and cloud integration with specific emphasis and focus on speed and simplicity. We often use the tagline integration in days because we have many use cases and proof point we have done just that. In total, we have performed hundreds of integration solutions successfully connecting cloud and on-premise applications. Our success in solving these integration issues has led to our consistent growth and also partly due to our satisfied customer base. The speed and simplicity and effectiveness of integration solutions we have developed continues to resonate with our customer base as we continue to be sought after within the community. And our expertise is recognized as the best in class as we are utilized by some of the biggest names in the industry to handle some of their toughest integration challenges. With regards to Lexicon Network services, we do everything from solutions consulting, strategy and roadmap, architecture and assessment, scope, definition, cost estimates, high-level timelines, enhancements and upgrades to any integration project that you might have deployed. Also, we do development services in terms of application integration, mobile app development, solution development, and ETL migration. We also do application management. So we provide level 1, level 2, level 3 support. We do application enhancements and maintenance and bug fixes, change requests, minor enhancements. So we do release planning, and we also provide help desk extended type support. From a delivery model in terms of projects, we do complete project ownership, collaboration with your IT group or staff augmentation. We also do complete managed services where we handle the project all the way from initial requirements gathering to full development and supporting long term.
On the next slide.
Speed and simplicity is the underlying fabric of what cast iron is about. And our success today, right from our product experience to the way market and large companies utilize cast iron to help them deliver application integration in days. The reality is that while many customers are adopting cloud applications such as NetSuite and Salesforce.com, they still use and maintain their enterprise on-premise applications. This has created a hybrid environment. As such, there is a need to connect cloud applications with existing on-premise applications to optimize performance, increase sales, productivity, and maximize resources and investments. Once the need for integration of two key systems is identified, such as their CRM and ERP applications, they realize that there are a number of other applications in their enterprise which may have dependencies and effects on their data, such as billing, inventory, or even database containing all master data. While these applications may not be accessible to the front office user community, they may be an integral part of some of the key business processes and responsible for a high load of back office processing. What the market has noticed is that while application integration needs are growing complex, the available solutions have been limited. Take, for example, custom code. If an organization has enough IT resources and programmers to create a one-off custom integration, this can be a tempting solution. However, this presents a number of resource-intensive hidden costs in maintenance, support, and any future changes should the need arise to grow the solution to integrate more applications. The second option is to go with an on-demand solution specializing in simple cloud-to-cloud connectivity. While this may be tempting due to the low cost, for simple cloud integration projects, this may fit the bill. But it does not offer the scalability and functionality to address on-premise or hybrid scenarios. In short, pure on-demand point solutions are not equipped to handle complex processes and back-office applications. The third option would be to consider the traditional on-premise solution. These solutions are based more on the classic ETL approach, designed for extracting and processing and storing large quantities of data. This older architecture also equates to a longer install and implementation process, as it occupies a much larger IT footprint. Most importantly, most SaaS applications of this type consider cloud as an afterthought, meaning that they may have cloud solution as well, but it does not have all the feature functionalities of their on-premise solution. So you will end up purchasing and maintaining two or more complex systems to solve one problem. So what does really cast iron bring to the table? In essence, what cast iron brings to the table is four main factors. Let's start with flexibility. So cast iron is a completely flexible solution in terms of it provides three different form factors. You have a cast iron live cloud option. You also have a physical appliance that you can deploy on premise, and you also have a virtual appliance that you can deploy within any data center. You also have complete connectivity. So total connectivity to I would say to all of your cloud endpoints. You also have pre-built connectors for the SaaS, for the large enterprise endpoints like SAP, Oracle EBS, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, and the like. Cast iron also provides complete reusability. So there is a tip exchange community where if you have particular endpoints you're trying to connect or a particular type of use case, you might identify that tip within the community and use it to accelerate your development process. It's also used for all types of projects, everything from a UI mashup to a process integration to data migration. So as you can see, it's a complete tool. Usability, complete connectivity, and three different form factors. The other distinctive features of cast iron is that it has a no coding approach. So in essence, everything is configuration based, and it's all drag and drop with pre-built connectors. You also go beyond configuration in that it provides full mapping capability. You can do auto mapping or you can do point-to-point mapping. You also have the pre-configured templates, like I mentioned before, that can help you accelerate the development process. The key message here is that cast iron integration appliance does only four things, but those four things it does very well. The four things that Cast Iron focuses on from an integration perspective are connectivity. The integration appliance connects to a variety of enterprise applications, on-demand applications, database, flat files, etc. You name it, I believe we can connect to it. Transformation. The integration appliance enables you to graphically map data between source and target. For example, if a PO number in your application is alphanumeric and is numeric in your vendor's application, you can graphically transform these so both applications interpret this as the same information. The other part that it does very well is the business logic. The integration appliance enables you to graphically define the flow of data between source and target applications. For example, you can graphically define all the steps needed to extract purchase order data from your ERP system and send it to different vendors. And lastly, it does a great job of management. The integration appliance provides you with a web console to manage your integration projects and have complete visibility of data flowing through the appliance. Since it's a self-contained appliance, you have visibility into everything from your hardware components like the CPU and storage, etc., all the way up to the business transactions processed by the appliance. What we like to do now at this point is transition into a live demonstration of our product to give you a real-time view of a scenario which mirrors the challenges you're facing. The goal here is to reiterate the value of real-time bidirectional integration accomplished through a simplified, user-friendly interface with the ability to reuse this information for future projects. At this point, we will pass it over to Lennon John, one of our architects, who will be performing the demo. Lennon, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can start the demo at this time.
Okay. So I would be first giving you an overview of Cast Iron as a tool along with its different components. So there's a server component and there's a client component. So I will just give you an overview of that, and then we could get into specific use cases between the two endpoints or applications that we target to cover today, which is NetSuite and Salesforce. So what you see right now in front of you, Art, by the way, how is the visibility? Is it visible?
It's visible, yes.
Okay. So let me quickly change it to a different mode. Just bear with me. So what you see in front of you is what we call as the Cast Iron Studio. And using the studio is what you would build the artifacts or flows that you would intend to publish and use it at the server end. And there are various tabs and feature functions in the studio which you would leverage. But primarily what we need to focus is on the vertical tabs here that you see, starting from projects, activities, variables, functions, and then finally verify. What you see in each of this tab are the various components, functions, features that you would leverage when you start building a flow. It also have other menu options for additional features which you would leverage at a specific point when you want to build something, when you want to verify something, and when you also want to, for example, create a config property, which is a vital part of the tool. So this is the studio where you would build all your flows, and once the flows are ready to be deployed on a server environment, you would deploy to a server, and the interface or the console view of the server is what you see here on the browser. So any project that is deployed would be visible here, and you can manage, you can monitor, administer, maintain those flows and projects once you have access to these appropriate access to this console. So at the console end, you would see all the projects, all its executions. There are some summary level information what you see. You would also see a utilization graph of CPU, memory, garbage collection, and all of that information here. The server also has, the console has the capability of viewing the system logs. You could pretty much go to your network settings, your system level settings, reports, and so on and so forth. So this is a graphical user interface which you would eventually use once you deploy the built orchestrations onto the server. There is also another way of accessing the server, which is using an SSH or a telnet session, and you can have a command line interface with a controlled shell where you could execute and administer the server from a SSH shell. So those are the two main components, and as Art mentioned, there are various form factors. There's a physical appliance, there's a virtual appliance, and there's a cloud environment or a subscription level service that's available. The good news is that when you use any of these form factors, the code base is the same, which means when you develop a flow using one of the form factor, you're able to deploy it to any of the form factors as a target instance. So if you have a code built and deployed on a physical appliance and then you want to move it to another form factor, it is very much possible. Coming back to the studio where you basically build a flow, today we will target the use cases that are between NetSuite and Salesforce. So to set the premise here, I'll be using NetSuite version 2015 release 1 or 2015.1 release for this demo, and I will also be using the Salesforce developer account where we kind of extract and push some information. So those are the two endpoints that I would be using. And the flow that I have already kind of pre-canned or pre-packaged here, I would explain that. And while I explain that, during that session, I would also go through some feature functions here, which is going to give you a good insight to the Cast Iron Studio. So what you see here is in the first tab, which is the project tab, are the common assets that are related to this project. So all your flows, so you can see here there are two different orchestrations here. Those are two different flows or independent flows. And by its name, it says that one is picking up the customer from NetSuite and pushing that information to Salesforce account. And the other flow is you pick up the Salesforce opportunity and then you push that into NetSuite opportunity or NetSuite prospect. We would be using a standard connector here because Cast Iron has got various connectors, and you can see here one of the connector we have as an out-of-the-box connector is NetSuite. So we will see these two use cases using this built-in out-of-the-box connector of NetSuite, and later we will also use the WSDL as another way of accessing NetSuite to build a use case on the fly. So these are the independent flows. So any endpoint that you add, for example, I've already added two endpoints here. So for adding a NetSuite endpoint, you need to give the login username, typically an email address, the password, and there's a unique account number for each of the org or each of the instance that you connect to. Also, you need to specify the URL and the version of the NetSuite so that the connection can be made. So once you do that, you can pretty much connect to the endpoint, and you can see here it's successfully connected to NetSuite instance. And the same way for the Salesforce, we use again a built-in or out-of-the-box connector, and this is the connector that we use. And in this case, you give the username, your password, and you specify whether you want to log into production instance or a sandbox, or even it has a provision to log into a partner WSDL where you can specify what is the exact URL for the API. So we can test this connection. It is also connecting successfully. So we have two endpoints which is ready to be used. And the other assets that are here are you can create your own flat file or DTD schemas. You can have style sheets built here. Now, it does not provide you the capability of building style sheets with assistance, but you can build it using any other common tool like XML Spy, Oxygen, so on and so forth, and then bring it in and embed it here. So that's possible as well. Then you can have standalone maps or transformations. WSDLs, if you use a particular web service that has a WSDL published, you can import those WSDLs here, and then finally the schemas, the XML schemas or the XSDs, you can import it as well. So anything that you see here in this tab, the project tab, are common assets. So when I create a NetSuite endpoint, I can use the same endpoint in multiple flows. And same goes with the style sheet or with the schema or with the flat files. So when you click on one, you can see here that this particular endpoint is used in both the flows here. In one flow, it is used to get the customers, so it's an outbound activity from NetSuite. And in the other case, I'm using the same endpoint to push some information towards NetSuite. So when you click on any of these common assets, it will tell you where all it is being used, and within that, what activity is being used. So in this case, Salesforce, you can see here again, it's used in both the flows that are built here. One is for upserting or basically pushing the customer information or account information, and the other is basically polling or watching a particular object and getting some data out of Salesforce. So that's how the view is configured here. When we move on to the next tab, you can also see here that there is various containers that you see here, and each of the container represents a set of components or set of information there. So when you look at like transform, logic, utilities, these are the various areas that you would use to build your steps or build your flow, which is critical to when you want to handle the payload and put some business logic around it. There are also other containers starting from database down to Workday. These are containers specific to the endpoint or the adapter. So in case of NetSuite here, you can see that these are the various operations that you can do within NetSuite. So you can add records, you can update your records, you can upsert, delete, get, attach, detach. So pretty much everything that you want to do with NetSuite, you could do. So when you, for example, choose one of these, then you can configure which is the area, which is the module and object that you're targeting. So it's a self-describable property there. So you can pick up, okay, I want to update accounts or customers. So you can specify, you can take add records and you can say that I want to add customers there. So these containers represent the various activities that Cas10 can do with that particular endpoint. So let's take the case of Salesforce. You can see that many things you can do with these activities that are available here. To name a few, you can poll or watch a particular object, and if any updates coming into that object, you can pull that out, or the flow will automatically pick that. You can update records. You can create records. You can query, search, merge, also send email from Cas10. Using Salesforce account, you can send emails. You can even reset passwords. So all these activities are, again, common activities. You pick an activity, you choose which object or which module is that you want to impact and then based on that, it can configure. The whole point of having this containers is that you use them and you configure them, and it will be ready for use. So you don't have to write any code, though it gives you certain ability to write codes like the style sheets and some JavaScript functions. But beyond that, you should be able to do most of your stuff by dragging and dropping various activities from these containers. So if you look at the logic, for example, you can see here that there are various activities, like you can do a for each, you can do an if then kind of condition, you can do a try catch loop, you can terminate a flow at a particular subflow or an if condition. If something doesn't satisfy, if you want to terminate a flow, you can do that, things like that. So you can also have a while loop. And utilities, there are various utilities, like you can schedule a job. So as we move into this flow, you will see that one of the activities that I put here is schedule job. And as I can say here, what schedule I want to do things. So there are various options here that you can do within the schedule. And you want to make it more complex, Castine allows you to do that by combining certain things here. You can have the flow kicked off, for example, in a very odd timing, like every 4 hours, every 8 hours. All that is possible. So those are the various containers that you have here. Some of it are very specific, which connects to the business layer. When it comes to NetSuite, Salesforce, it connects to the business layer. But when you also have the capability of database layers, where you can connect to pretty much any database and then perform operations there. Same is the case with FTP, HTTP, and web service. You can pretty much connect to any endpoint and then deal with it from a protocol perspective. So to get into the flow, the first flow that I'm going to demonstrate here is NetSuite customer. So we are picking up customers from NetSuite, and then we are pushing it into Salesforce account. So I'll just quickly see what is available as accounts in Salesforce, and then recently created. I don't think I have anything recently created. So let me now explain this flow, run this flow, and then we'll see the effect in Salesforce. As far as the source is concerned, you have the customers in relationship customers. So this is the area that we're going to use to pull out the customers. And as it populates a record, let's go back and look at the flow. So this flow is triggered. So every flow in Castine is triggered by what we call as a starter activity. What are starter activities? That is either an event externally being triggered or an event that is meeting a time criteria here. In this case, it's a scheduled job. So any flow should have first a starter activity. And to quickly take a peek at what are the starter activity, anything that you see here in blue within the containers would be a starter activity. So every container here, you would see some of it as starter activity. So in this case, for example, in the NetSuite case, there is no starter activity. So we have to use a kind of scheduled job to pull the information. In Salesforce case, you do have some starter activity, get poll updated object or poll deleted object or the starter activity. Typically, we would use a schedule or a HTTP push kind of information, push kind of activity to start the flow if you do not have a built-in starter activity. So in this case, it's a scheduled job every 5 seconds. Start the flow. What we do as a next major activity is search the customer. So if you look here, I've used the NetSuite as my endpoint. So this particular endpoint that is here is being used here in an activity called search records. And then I use the configurable property here. So it's a you can describe your different operations there, and in this case I picked up as customer search. And in my input to this, what I have given is pick every record from NetSuite with a condition. Now what is the condition? I'll go back and look at the condition here. I'll say, okay, start of this year, which means that every account that is created from the start of this year, that's what I'm looking for. And there's a search operator as well, on or after. So those two conditions would be passed as variables from the input towards the input to the activity, and once you pass that, it should fetch the records for you. Uh, so once it fetches the record, you will get all the customer information out of this particular transformation or output activity, and we are storing that into a variable called search response. So we got the search after this particular activity runs, and then there's an if condition here to check, okay, did I get any records? If I did not get any records, I don't want to execute all these steps. So if I don't have any records, then I move on to map some result and then end the flow here. So in this case, if it gets any record, then we move on to the next stage where we do some transformation of the record. So this is the output of the NetSuite. You can see the structure of the customer record, and then when it comes to Salesforce, there's a different structure. So in this case, we use a style sheet to pull information out of this complex structure and push it into this simple structure. We do that, and then the next major activity here is we use an upsert towards the Salesforce. You can see here the Salesforce is the endpoint here. We have picked up the account as an object, and we basically map those so that the records are created in Salesforce. So let's quickly run this flow so that we will see if we can get some record towards Salesforce. So I'm going to, but for running the flow, I go to the Verify tab, and I use the play button here. So if the flow is intact, if there are no syntax errors or validation errors, then it would pretty much start the flow. And since we have kept it as a 5-second interval, the flow kicks in pretty much immediately. So as the flow is executing, you can see here that I can open any of these and start seeing what is happening here. So this is a very good feature that Cast-Iron offers, where you can debug, you can analyze, you can do your smoke test, your unit testing right here before you deploy this to an appliance or to the server. So it completed the flow. You can see here it went and fetched the customer based on the criteria that we gave, and then checks the if condition here. This is if condition it checks. It found records, that's why it went into this particular branch, and then finally we went into a kind of split. What split does is basically you can kind of specify a batch. So in this case, I've said, okay, for every batch, pick up 200 records. So you can kind of optimize and customize the throughput that you want to give to the target application, which is Salesforce in this case. And then finally, it upserts with the record. So I can go and see my results right here, and it says that, yes, it created so many records in Salesforce, and this is a kind of web service response that I get from Salesforce, where you have the ID, and it says, yes, I created the record, and it was successful. So many records were created in Salesforce, which we picked up from NetSuite. So the effect of that, you could see in Salesforce. So if I go into Salesforce, refresh my page, I should be able to see some records here. So here, all this records is just created from NetSuite towards Salesforce. If I open up any of this record, I could see the data here. And to just verify things here, I'll go back to NetSuite. I'll put this name, and then I can see the information of that particular customer in NetSuite. So that's how simple the execution is. And you can see here, this is the record that came out of NetSuite with various information, but we just picked up few fields and pushed it into Salesforce. So this is, if you look at here, this is a record that's coming out of NetSuite, and what goes into finally Salesforce would be just the account number, external ID, the company account type, and some revenue information. So that's the first use case that I wanted to show you, which picks up the records from NetSuite customer and pushes the record into Salesforce. The next thing I want to show you is a direction that goes on the opposite, where we have a lead process and then a lead maturing into an opportunity in Salesforce. And then once it matures or once it's converted into an opportunity, we want to pick that from Salesforce and then push it into NetSuite. So we're going to do that. And in this case, you can see here the first starter activity that I have here is poll updated object. So this is one of the Salesforce activities that you would see here, poll updated object. And what it does is basically it will watch a particular object. So in this case, I'm watching opportunity. So if anything that gets updated or inserted into opportunity object, that's what I would pull out. And what do I do next? I would check, okay, did any records come in as we checked in the previous flow? If there are records, then I'm also checking, okay, do I have certain elements as valid? So in this case, I'm checking if the name is valid, because that's critical for me for the business logic. So I'm checking if name is not null. If name is not null, then I'm considering that record is valid, and I'm upserting into NetSuite at this time. So NetSuite also has got the function of upsert. Now, what is upsert? If you have the record, update the record. If you do not have the record, then create it. So it's a kind of single-step DML, where otherwise you would write two steps. Okay, you would check, okay, if the record is there, do an update, else insert. So we're combining that into a single step here. So you can see here, in this case, the target is NetSuite, the source is Salesforce, and what we are trying to do here is from Salesforce, we pick up certain information after it is converted into opportunity, like stage, name, revenue information, probability, and then we push it into the complex structure that we have from NetSuite. Okay, and then we take the results and we're generating a job key, what we call it as a key information that is visible on the web management console, and I'll show you that in a minute. So first, what we will do is we will quickly go into Salesforce, convert a particular lead, which is a Salesforce process you convert. So let's take this first account, Wright Brothers. So this is a lead that I have as a CRM process flow in Salesforce. So I'll convert this lead, use this button of convert, and then probably give a subject, okay, for the task, I'll say, okay, email me once you get it, and the due date is today. That's it. I can convert my lead into an opportunity. So this lead now gets into the opportunity. So in the opportunity, I'll quickly go into opportunity, and then I see that opportunity here, right here. So I'll click on this opportunity, and in the meanwhile, I will go in here and start the flow. So what it says, the criteria here is that I'm watching the opportunity, and the moment there's an update to the opportunity, I'm going to pick it up. Okay. So I'll come here. I'll just edit some information on the opportunity in Salesforce. I'll say that the probability is not 10%, it is 40%. And I will also change the stage to qualification, for example, or maybe, decision makers. I will put some price, say, not the price, sorry, I will put the amount here because that's what I mapped. So $1,000. I'll give them a discount of 10%, and That's it pretty much. I don't think I need anything else. So I'll save this opportunity, and the moment I save it, you can see here it'll start processing the flow. So it picked up some other information here. So we'll just again start the flow, and we will touch this record once again so that we can see that change coming in. Okay, it's running. So I will call it here. It's not from the web. It's from a phone inquiry, and then save this record. The opportunity is saved, and then you can see here immediately it picked up that opportunity. So let's see what happened here. So you can see here the Bright Brothers has been picked up. It picked up the amount which I put of $1,000, the probability. Yeah, probability changed to 60%. I thought I'd put 40%. Okay, it's 60% expected revenue, closing date, and some extra information. What it did, it went and created this into NetSuite. So if I, for example, pick this name and search it on the NetSuite, I should be able to see this record in NetSuite. So let's do that. So you can see here, Bright Brothers Design was created today. And it created a prospect, it created an opportunity. And if I go into the opportunity, I should be able to see the information that I had keyed in Salesforce. Now you can see here, all of this happens in a real-time situation. This poll objects would poll at a very high frequency. In fact, you can set here how many minutes or how many hours or days you can kind of perform this poll, and each of the poll, what is the kind of batch that you want to pull. And based on this, it performs every minute or every hour. It pulls out the information from Salesforce and then executes the flow. So each of this activity, when you see here, there is something called as a checklist here. So when you drag and drop an activity, you pretty much have to configure this checklist before it becomes a valid activity. Those are, again, very easily configurable. There's a context-driven help here. So if you see something as exclamation, you can click on that exclamation and see what is the issue in the configuration on the setup that I did. So you can see here, the probability is 60%. The projected total value is 1,000. The weighted total is 600. The opportunity is identified, as status is identified, and the rest of the information that the company is Bright Brothers. So this is how an information is pushed into NetSuite from Salesforce, again, a near real-time scenario. The next use case that what I'm going to show you is basically build a flow from scratch very quickly, and then show you how easy it is to configure things in Castine. So I'm going to just use an empty flow here.
Hi, Len. Sorry to interrupt. You have 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So I'll just open up an empty flow, and this time I will not use the connector. So there are two ways to connect to NetSuite from Castine. One, you can use a built-in adapter or built-in endpoint that we have, which is a NetSuite endpoint, or it also has published Enterprise WSDL. So in this particular use case, I'm going to use the Enterprise WSDL, use that WSDL, and then perform an operation. So let me see what I can do quickly. I do have a short of time, but let's see. So I do have the WSDL downloaded from the NetSuite library. Actually, I downloaded this from this particular place where you have, I mean, this is for a common download that's available here. So I have downloaded the WSDL, and I'm now going to attach that WSDL into Castine. So you can see here, the moment I pick the WSDL, everything that is inside this in terms of references, it will start pulling it. So it starts pulling and importing all these schemas that are required for this particular WSDL, and it will now validate the entire document to look at its compatibility, and then once it is fully validated, it will store this document or store this WSDL and all its dependencies like the schemas and operations and ports and everything into cast iron. So that becomes very easy for further operations or utilizing it. So it picked up everything, and this is an enterprise whistle. It's pretty heavy, so it takes a little bit of time to load. But once it loads, you can see it here. What I'm going to do is quickly create a new orchestra. First of all, I create the endpoints. So in this case, what I'm going to do is let me pick up some records from NetSuite, and then we will push it into Salesforce. That's the kind of on-the-fly demo or on-the-fly build that I would do. So I would first pick up a Salesforce endpoint here. Now I do have my properties defined here. So this is how you can predefine your endpoint connectivity information. So for example, the Salesforce user, I've used the developer account. I can pretty much embed here what we call as configuration properties, so that you can reuse that and no need of hard coding it here. And another advantage of doing that is you can also alter this or change this on the fly in the server. So it's a very convenient way of doing things, and also you're not hard coding it within the flow. So I'll pick the Salesforce information here, SFDC user, and then I've got SFDC password. I will log in normally. Let me connect. Yes, it is connected. The next thing I will add is a web service endpoint. This time I'm not going to use the built-in NetSuite. I'm going to use the web service. So in the web service, I'll browse the WSDL that I already added, the NetSuite WSDL, and the location. It's a HTTPS connection with these SSL v2. I know the location here, so let me just add something here because the location is this, and I'm using the 2014 version 2 API in this case. So everything is added as a web service, so I can rename this web service now to NetSuite WS, for example. So I have the two endpoints that I wanted. Now I'll create a new flow. So you can see the new flow here. What I'll do is again, for ease and to do it quickly, I'll drag and drop a schedule job here, and I'll say, okay, run the schedule in 5 seconds. Okay. And then the next activity, what I want to do is immediately go into the web service container here, because we're using web service this time, and say invoke a service. So that's how you put an invoke service. And you can see here, the moment you put invoke service, it'll tell you, okay, these are the two important things that you need to classify. Pick an endpoint. You put a service, which endpoint do you want me to use? So I've already created an endpoint here, which is a NetSuite WS. I use that, and then the moment I pick that, automatically it will build the structure around it. All the operations that are needed would come in there, so that we can now go and choose what operation that I want to pick from. Again, this is an enterprise WSDL. It is a bit heavy, so it will take few seconds to load this information once. So once we do that, then we will. So it's loaded. So I'm directly going to configure. So this time, what I'll do is I'll search a particular information. What do I search? I'll search employee information. Okay. So the search is again a common operation that is available within the WSDL, and then you specify what you want to search. So the way you handle or the way you deal with an enterprise WSDL is slightly different than a simple WSDL. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what we call it as a substitute node. So when you have a search, I'll go into the search record, and then I'll use one of the schemas that it pulled within the whole WSDL, and then I will use it. So I'll use the basic employee search, employee So I can search within the, because it's a large schema, large set of schema, I can search employee, search basic. So this is the schema, or this is a structure that I want to use. And then again here I can quickly search, okay, I want to put the first name. Okay, so the first name node, operator, there are predefined values, contains, and I will say search value as, in this case I'll just hard code it Andy. It is not recommended to hard code. You have to kind of bring in dynamic variables, which we can always do. So I want to search any employee that contains Andy as a value. And in the operator, again, you can give different conditions, but in this case, I could just give contains. There's one more information as a part of the invoking that you need to do here in NetSuite case is go to the optional parameters and set certain things here. So within your headers, you need to set the authentication because it's an CRM or an ERP, and you need authentication to connect. There are three things basically that you need to connect to NetSuite: your login username, or basically email, password, and then the account information. What is the account information? So if you go in here into the setup, integration, web service preferences, you can see that this is the account ID that we require. Okay, so if you put, and those three things, I already have this in my config property, so I'll just quickly select that. NetSuite password, and then the third thing I need is an account. So these three things I need for a successful connection, and I've already set my criteria here for the search, which is the employee search basic. So, and in the basic, I've passed first name as the criteria to search, and you can search on various things like country, city. So there's lots of entities here to search on within the employee domain. But in my case, I just gave the first name. And for the output as well, you need to do the substitute node because this is a generic service. And this time I'll pick it employee as my output node. So everything related to employee, email, last name, first name, mobile address, and all of that would come out. So look how easy it is to kind of pull that structure and reuse that structure here. Everything will be copied over. I will rename this variable as employee NetSuite employee. Okay, so I got the variable out, and I will call it as, I can rename this as search employee. Okay. The next activity, what I want is basically, I want to make it very simple here. I'll go to the Salesforce container and I say upsert into Salesforce. So I'll say upsert employee. So I have a table, a custom object that I created in Salesforce. Let me quickly show you here. I do have a tab. I think I defined a tab. Yeah, employees. So in the employee, there's nothing in here. Nothing in here. So what I will do is in Salesforce, again, I need to pick the endpoint what I created. So I did create an endpoint called Salesforce, which has got the username and password and the connection details. Then I go to configure. In the configure, again, you browse and pick the object that you want to push this information to. In this case, I have an object called employee. It's a custom object, so you could see that __ C. So I want to populate everything but the owner ID. And I want to use, there's an external ID here because I want to use one of the ID that's coming from the NetSuite as my ID to populate so that I don't have any duplicate record scenario. So I do have an external ID here, which I've defined as an external ID in Salesforce, which is unique. And I chose that when I did my upsert. So automatically the structure that you chose came in as my input, and I have the NetSuite employee variable ready for it. So all I need to do is, I know that there's an internal ID, which is what I want to use as my ID field. I push that into the external ID. I use the first name to first name, last name to last name. For the name, I'm going to use a function. So you can see here, there's a lot of containers here within the functions, so you can have predefined functions, all the functions related to string, mathematical, miscellaneous, so on and so forth you can have. If you do not find a built-in function, which most of it would be available here, then you can also create a custom function. So you can have a JavaScript function similar to this, and you can have all your JavaScript code here, which should comply to a function, which will return a value. So in this case, I'll use a string function, and let me use concatenate. So I will concatenate first name and last name, and then push it to what we call as a name in Salesforce. And I'll just add a space between first name and last name, and I'll push it. So it's that simple to do a function when you transform from a source to a target, in this case, a NetSuite variable or structure to a Salesforce structure. And then I need email. So I'll just push email. Then one last thing is a role. So in this case, it's a title. Oh, sorry. Title. Yeah. Okay. So title would go to role. So my input is ready, and the Salesforce employee can be created. So let's quickly run this and see whether it runs. So this is a three-step flow. You pick up every 5 seconds, search for an employee with a condition as Andy, and then push this information into Salesforce. And we kind of mapped from one particular structure to another structure, and we did also some mapping, which was important while we transformed this information from a source to target. So it did successfully. Hopefully we have some records. Let's see what it pulled up. So from the NetSuite, it did pull up 4 records. You can see here, and then Andy. So anything that matches Andy is what it pulled up. So let's see on the Salesforce side what it created. So it all created successfully. So I'll quickly go into the Salesforce side and then refresh this page. You should be able to see those 4 records. So anything that was matching Andy. So you can see Andy, Randy, Brandy, and 2 Brandys here. You click on a record, you could see all the information related to that employee, like email, first name, last name, and you can see that the name automatically kind of concatenated with the space appeared here. So it's that simple to build a flow. Now, when you build a production-ready flow, then you need to consider the best practices and try catches and logging and exception handling and all of that, which is a part of the actual build process. So, yep. So that's it from my side, Art. I'm done. Sorry, a bit late, but that's the few use cases that I could show today.
Lennon, thank you for the demo. It's greatly appreciated. Now we're opening it up for questions. We have about 5 minutes, 4 minutes for questions. If there are any questions, please put them into your chat line, or you can unmute your microphone at this time. Yeah, I don't see any questions coming into the queue. Want to thank everybody for attending the call today. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us at service@lexiconnetworks.com. You could also go to our website, lexiconnetworks.com, if you need any further information on Cast Iron. Thank you and have a great day.